Hello, my name is Miguel Perez. I'm the director of Oleanna by David Mamet at the Hollywood Fringe Festival in June. It's a heck of a show. And if you want to know more about it, stick around. You're going to hear a lot. I first got involved in theater when I was a young boy. There was a production of A Christmas Carol on, and in the sixth grade, I don't know why I was drawn to try out for a part, and I got the lead. And quite frankly, I as soon as I got all the positive attention and feedback from the experience, from doing that, from playing Ebenezer Scrooge and putting gray in my hair and whatnot, I was hooked. I just had to go back for more. Up until that time, as a child, while I was loved by my family, my parents, and everything, that kind of adulation from folks I didn't even know, just it was like a drug. I had to have more, and that's what began the process. And now, half a century later, it's not so much for the adulation, but for the beauty of completing a project in the way one wants to do it.
I fell in love with theater. I think it's always kind of been a part of my life and part of my path. It's always something that I knew was going to be my path in life. My mom loves to tell this story of I was like 5 or 6 years old, and I was in kindergarten, and it was my first school play, and I went to her and I was like, I don't care if I'm tree number three, I just want to be in the show. And I think I actually ended up playing like a tree or somebody standing in the background in that play, and I was like, this is this is it. This is drawing me. This is igniting a passion. And the more that I got older and got involved in my school plays and a community theater near me, and then when I went to school, the more that I experienced it, the more I knew that this was just a community, in a sense that I had never felt community before. And I felt really safe to be myself and safe to see my friends blossom and turn into their own people. And I I can't think of another atmosphere or another line of work that provides that kind of sense of community and sense of figuring out who you are and being able to express that.
Well, the first time I fell in love with the theater, I was 14, 13, 14. It was in school in Paris, France. And I was playing a character called Tistou with green thumbs. And I was the lead. And I had green thumbs, and I would go around the stage, and the other students we had built walls, and when I was going around the stage, they would turn around the walls and flowers appear in the back, and that's how I fell in love with theater. And it never left me. I went to the conservatory in Paris, and then moved to New York, studied acting there at Columbia, and that's how my theater life started.
Directing is something that's always been a part of my career, although it didn't become an obsession until only very recently. I began teaching not too long ago, as a way of giving back to the profession, and it's just a natural outgrowth of that experience of trying to impart something, trying to place an idea in someone's mind without actually saying, "Here, do this." And I guess the obsession is in trying to find a way to communicate with actors that is deeper than just, stand up and turn to the right. It's a way of trying to, I guess I'm obsessed with the process of trying to instill ideas in folks indirectly, creating circumstances. And that only just came to be. Truth is, all these years, I've only ever wanted to be an actor. But the challenge of directing, the challenge of becoming the director that I always wanted, has only been in the last few years. And it's a challenge that I welcome and that I can't stop going towards.
Acting has always been an interest for me. Definitely through middle school and high school, I think the interest grew more into a passion and it was ignited more. But I think when I got to college and I started studying acting in a way that I had never really been asked to, or I had never thought of acting in that way before, in terms of doing the text work and diving into character analysis and plot analysis, looking at a play as this puzzle or this mystery that you need to solve and you need to dig in and really do some hard work. It converted from an interest, a passion, a hobby into this obsession of just, this is so rewarding to feel like I felt like I was actually doing a job. I could understand when people said that they had made acting a career. That made sense to me because for the first time in my life, I was like, oh, this is all of the hard work that people are talking about when they talk about acting. And this is how the greats come to where they are, is they have to put in this kind of time and effort.
I fell in love with acting. Well, at that age, at 14, I fell in love with it. I really, I didn't consider it a calling, but I really felt it was something that gave me a life on stage that I never felt as comfortable. It's a place where you can be whatever you want. And the obsession, or the job, when I moved to New York, I felt that I could make it in New York. No, I felt that when I was living in France, I was also in parallel doing serious studies like economics and business. That was the backup, and I thought the backup would become like revenue. But moving to New York, the dream.
The process, it's a little unusual. I'll spend anywhere from a third to a half of the rehearsal period just sitting around a table with the actors, going through the script line by line, moment by moment, making the entire creative team experts on the script. By the time we actually start to get on our feet, everyone knows every moment and everyone has an opinion on every moment. And what I've done is I've tried to engage the cast on my opinion and sort of win them over to my side. I don't always succeed. Sometimes the actors will have better ideas about a moment than mine. And of course, I'll say, hey, that's great. What you're thinking is much better than what I had in mind. And I say, go for it. I'll take credit for it, but you can have it. But at least half of the process is spent at the table working on the script. And what's interesting is that once it's time to get on our feet, the cast is ready to get on their feet, and they already have natural ideas about how to move, when to move, where to move, what behaviors to do. And that just comes right out of the work on the text. And staging the play becomes just an organic process. It's just, okay, now we're doing this, now we're doing that. So then once that's done, it's just finding the way through the play, forging a path through the play. And my touch becomes less and less as the actors take more and more ownership. And by opening night, it's their job, and all I have to do is sit back and watch.
My process for preparing for a role and preparing for bringing this character to life in a theater production, I think, it is different every time. And I I attended a Stella Adler school, the Art of Acting studio in Los Angeles, and so a lot of my technique comes from Stella Adler's technique building on the use of the imagination. And I think something really pivotal from my training is finding that balance between lived experiences, what can I associate about myself that this character is also experiencing or going through, and then the Stella Adler method of using the imagination to substitute in or explore more of the character is really important. Text work always comes first to me. Um, Reading the play multiple times every day as I'm getting closer to the opening night of a performance. And once I'm into shows, I'm reading the play once a day. And that really helps me find something new, especially with really rich text that I'm working with, like Shakespeare or Chekhov or Mamet. Getting the chance to read those plays again and again is such a gold mine because you find something new every time. So I would say that is probably the number one most important thing is the text work for me.
What makes the theater experience unique and, for my money, eternal, is that it's it's the experience of an idea being transmitted from the minds of the players, the creative team, everybody, being transmitted into the minds of the audience. It's like telepathy. We have an idea that we want to confer by telling a story, and if we do our jobs properly, what we're thinking goes into the minds of the audience, and then they're thinking it too, and that's magic. And yes, you can get that from other media. You can get that from a film. You can get that, from a dance piece. But what makes theater so interesting and addictive is that it's happening in the moment. There's human beings sharing ideas, and that goes all the way back to prehistoric tribes dancing and telling stories with limited language about where to find the water buffalo that they need to bring down in order to feed everyone. That's ancient, and I'm just happy that we're still doing that today, and we probably will continue.
There's so much that is special about the theatrical experience compared to film and television. Um, that idea of you're never going to get the same performance twice. As an actor, you get to explore different parts of the character every night, whereas film and TV, you do months and months of prep work, but that one performance, there's only one take that they're going to be using, and that's going to be memorialized. And with acting on the stage, you can explore something different every time. And for me, something that really resonated that really just came to light this past year, I took a Shakespeare workshop in New York, and we were talking with Brian Cox from Succession about what does it mean to be an actor? Why are you an actor? And he pulled up um, some text from Hamlet just saying the job of an actor is to reflect society back onto itself and hold up a mirror to a person and say, this is who you are, or this is a part of yourself that maybe you don't recognize yet. And the experience of being in the same space as our audience and seeing them look at themselves in the mirror in real time, it's incomparable. You can't get that with TV or with film. You can hear reactions and you can hear people share their story, which is just as important, but it is really an indescribable experience to be able to share that story and see those people receive it in real time.
Well, theater is magic in a way that live stage, and that's this conversation I've had with many people recently with AI replacing some of our jobs as actors is it will not be replaced because live stage or live music is a it's like going to church. It's collaboration with the audience. It's a dialogue, and every night is different because the audience is different because we are different on stage. So this it's a communion of spirit of souls and storytelling that is fed on both sides. It really is, and you feel that on stage. You really do. And that's why theater is my primary passion. Acting wise, I love to feel that adrenaline, and I feel this presence that reverberates what I'm sending.
Hollywood Fringe Festival, that first came on my radar back in, oh gosh, was it 2013, maybe 2014? A friend of a friend was mounting a production of Antigone. And my friend said, my friend is doing Antigone and she needs someone to play Creon. So being the senior actor, the old guy who has some gray in his beard, I think I was a natural for the role. But I met the woman, and she said, "Oh gosh, yes, come and play Creon with us." And so it was wonderful. It was really ragtag. We were rehearsing in apartments. We were rehearsing wherever we could. There was no Zoom at that time, so we couldn't avail ourselves of online. But we were just sort of putting it together, slapdash, however we could. I bought my own design and provided my own costume. And then we show up and we have 15 minutes to prepare and the show goes on and whatever happens, happens. And there was something so bold about that. It was like guerrilla theater. And that's how it is throughout the Fringe. And I think that's what makes the Fringe Festival so exciting is that, it's just two planks and a passion. What have you got? Have you got a telephone to put on a table? Have you got something that looks like a book? Okay, let's do the play. And that's theater at its best. I've always believed in storytelling over stagecraft, and at the Fringe Festival, you have to rely on storytelling because there's no time or space or budget for stagecraft. So that to me is what theater was always meant to be anyway. As soon as you start getting a bunch of lasers and amazing effects and whatnot involved, then it's less of a theater piece and more of a multimedia event. And yes, we need multimedia events. Yes, we need big pieces. The Phantom of the Opera just closed on Broadway. I mean, that chandelier coming down, that's epic. But at the Fringe Festival, you're not going to get huge chandeliers, but you're going to get people telling stories with their hearts, and with sweat running down their faces. And that's my kind of theater.
I first heard about the Hollywood Fringe Festival actually last year. My roommate, Lola Darzans, and a couple of other people from my Stella Adler acting studio, we had created our own solo shows as a part of the curriculum from the studio. And our teachers and professors had all said, there's a really great outlet for this if you're looking to develop your piece beyond just the studio. And it's called the Hollywood Fringe Festival. And so getting to watch my cohort go through that process of developing their show into this bit of a longer format show and create something really unique and enter it into this community. I just think that Hollywood Fringe is such a special community because I do think that Los Angeles kind of gets a reputation as I mean, it's impossible to deny it. We are TV and film based and heavy, and there is not a lot of emphasis or attention or media presence on theater as there is film or TV. And um, the opportunities that Hollywood Fringe Festival provides, networking with local artists, networking with local theater spaces, networking with local directors, everything is so central to Los Angeles that it has made me realize that we do have a theater community, and there are theater actors and directors and performers and writers and designers that live right here that we can start networking with today. And I think that is a huge, wonderful opportunity. And it makes Fringe so integral to being a theater based performer, artist, however you want to say, in Los Angeles.
Well, I've heard about the Fringe Festival in LA when I moved in many years ago, and I attended many of my friends' performances. It's my first Fringe. I've done other Fringes in Europe, but this is my first Fringe in LA, and it's interesting. It's so spread out. I went to one of those office hours evenings, and these are very cool. You know, since I've done the European version of it, it takes over such a city when we do it there that you really feel for 2 weeks that we take over the city. Here, it's so spread out. You still don't have that that theater, that you inhabit over there. I don't want to sound like, but it's exciting to be a part of a movement, especially after the pandemic, which feels really puts the theater back in action in LA. You know what I mean? It's just the pandemic really changed the pendulum on live performances. So being part of that first really Fringe festival after the pandemic, it's very exhilarating. It's very exciting. Whether it is not spread or not, because this is the nature of the city, it's very exciting, and you feel it at these office hours evenings. You feel we're part of something fun. It's exciting. I think it's all about community. I think the community spirit for COVID got hurt everywhere in the world. We are more and more individual in our approach, first because it was for health reasons, and now it's you order your food online, so the sense of community got a big hit, and we're still all recovering from this PTSD. We all have PTSD in a way. So live events, whether it is music or stage, brings us back together. It does, and there are not many things that do. You watch Netflix at home. It's not a sense of community at all. You go to the movie theaters, it's a little bit community, but it doesn't have that exchange again. So it's very important. I hope people will come to the theater and come back to be part of a community, because we all belong to it.
That's an interesting story. I saw the play when it was first produced. I was at Harvard University. I was a artist in residence there, and David Mamet was directing his new play, Oleanna. This was like the early 90s. And so, I went down to catch it, and it was infuriating. Me Too hadn't happened yet. A lot of things hadn't happened yet. I think that the world was different at that time. So I was infuriated by the idea of this professor being brought down by a kind of a revolutionary new view of the world. And Mamet directed it very much in favor of the plight of the professor. And I bought into it. It was interesting. It caught my interest. Plus I loved the language of it. And so I went and saw it a couple of times with Bill Macy, and I think it was Rebecca Pidgeon in the show. And I was intrigued. Then a few years later, I was asked to play the role of the professor, John, opposite the wonderful young actress named Ariel Zevon, the daughter of the great rock star, Warren Zevon. And we did it at Third Street Theater and got a lot of good notices. And I was still interested in the idea of this professor going along with his life and somehow being pulled down. And that, because I was playing the role, of course, I was very much in favor of the professor. But I began to hear, I mean, Ariel is a wonderful, wonderful actress. And I began to see that character's side of it, because Ariel, so sensitive, so powerful in her interpretation, really started to sway me and started to make me question the position and the privileges that this professor enjoyed, just conferred upon him because of who he was and his gender and his upbringing. But by the time we closed that, I was sort of done with the piece. I wanted nothing to do with it anymore. It was done. I thought I'd gotten everything I could out of it. Then I started teaching many, many years later. I started teaching. My students started bringing the play, scenes from the play to me to work on in studio. And by that time, Me Too had happened. By that time, perspectives had changed. By that time, I had been educated more about the ideas of gender, what's the word I'm looking for? The disparities in privilege between genders, the patriarchy, Me Too. And as my students were playing the piece for me and, with me, I began hearing lines that I should have known, but felt that I hadn't heard before. And I realized that 30 years down the line, the play had remained the same, but my perspective had changed. And two students of mine were having a tremendous amount of success in the way that they were going through the play, the way they were reading it, the way they were seeing it. And I said, well, let's do this. Let's take it all the way. And I should say former students, because the student-teacher relationship had pretty much come to its end, and so we became colleagues. And I said, okay, let's mount this. Let's do it. Fringe Festival's coming up. The timing was just right. That decision came just at the right time to start putting together a creative team, and we just did it. It just happened. Fundraising went smoothly. And now we're in the throes. We're at the point now. We're on our feet. We're in the theater space. We're putting the finish on it, and we have a new perspective, a perspective that wasn't there before. Basically, it's this. Back in the 90s, the dramatic question for this play was, what happens if two sides of an argument are wrong? And now today, after so much time and so much upheaval in society, the real dramatic question of this play is, what happens if two sides of an argument are right? And that's a much more explosive question, and it makes for a lot of conflict and a lot of fireworks in this play.
The way that this particular production came about was actually really unique. I met our director, Miguel Perez, through the Art of Acting Studio. He was one of my first acting teachers, and he really kind of cracked open my shell. I think that we grew a lot together, and I grew so much under his tutelage. I really became, honestly, the artist that I am today thanks to him. And The conservatory program is a 2.5 year program. So towards the end of my training, the last semester, Miguel approached me and said, I do some acting coaching on the side, and there's this actor, Jean-Michel, and he wants to work on a scene um, to be coached on. And I want to work on the scene from Oleanna. Would you be his scene partner? And jumped at the opportunity to work with Miguel again. And over the process of maybe 3 or 4 sessions that we had with Miguel giving Jean-Michel some acting coaching, first of all, he's so generous. He was giving me a lot of training and invaluable information during our sessions then. But the chemistry that Jean-Michel and I had was just absolutely amazing. We got along so well as people, and as actors, I think that we both have a lot of mutual respect for each other. And he is just so generous and gracious to work with. He gives me so much to play with every time. And so we did a couple of acting sessions. And about a month or two later, Miguel approached me and said, I really want to develop this for Fringe. And so does Jean-Michel, but we're not going to do it unless you're on board because you are our top pick. And it just felt like such a full circle moment for me to have this dream of moving out to LA to become an actor. And here I am getting to work with a very established actor and a very established director that I really respect and honor, and I treasure their opinion. And it was very flattering to get the offer to work on this project.
How did it come about? It came about a meeting with Claire and Miguel, two wonderful people. So first, it was the meeting these two wonderful individuals, and see how that it really clicked. Something clicked, and then the play itself. Gosh, I mean, I knew about the play. I've never seen it performed, but reading it again, or reading it for the first time, uh, oh my gosh, it's so current. It's so current, even though it was written in 91, 92, I think. It feels more necessary than ever with what we're going through with, cancel culture, Me Too movement, and to me, it really rings true on a daily basis when I open the newspaper. So it that was an important play for me to do. Besides the fact that I'm enjoying it tremendously on stage with Claire, who's wonderful, and Miguel, who's also such a terrific director, so kind and so nurturing. Yeah, I think people will enjoy this play. It's an unusual play. The play starts between a college professor, me, and his female student, and she comes to see him because she has questions about her test, and we find out that she's not doing so well in the class, and so my character is trying to help her, and but he's got issues on his own because he's trying to buy a house. He's on a tenure track. This house, he's got a family, child. It's very important to him. So his mind is somewhere else, and this student comes, and we all both anxious of the future. She really is, and I am as well. So our priorities are different. We try to communicate, but we don't really communicate, and this miscommunication starts a cycle of doom. Really, my character makes mistakes, and good-hearted mistake, but mistakes nonetheless.
So the beginning arc of this play is I am a college student and I come into my professor's office because I'm having some trouble with a class and just understanding in general what he's talking about in class. And through the course of the first act and thus the first half of the play, we are trying to get started with this conversation, but we keep getting interrupted one of us will get distracted or go off on a tangent. He keeps getting phone calls from his realtor or his lawyer or his wife because they're in the process of buying a new home and he's up for tenure. And so there's a lot on his mind and there's a lot on my mind concerning, am I going to pass this class? I need my professor's help. Is he, what is my grade going to look like in this class? And there's just a lot of starting and stopping and miscommunication or lack of communication. We're talking over each other a lot. And this lack of communication or these words or phrases or gestures that both of us make get interpreted by the other person in completely different ways than I think what the intention is. And something we've talked a lot with our director about is what is the intention versus what is the impact? And that comes to a head through the course of the play of what is my intention with this character? And then the impact is completely different and completely unprecedented from what I meant it to be.
Lucky me, all of my first choices for this creative team were available at the moment that I needed them, which is very rare. I needed someone to help hold my hand through the producing process because I've never produced a play before. I've directed a few times, and I've played in many plays, but I've never really taken on the producing duties. And so my old friend Darcy Lee, the classiest, most marvelous producer, we were talking on the phone. I mentioned I want to do this. She says, well, you need some help. I said, yes. Darcy and I go back to when we were both acting in Cyrano de Bergerac at a brave little theater in Pasadena called the Knightsbridge Theater. I played Cyrano, she played Roxanne, and the play kept getting extended and extended and extended because it's just a wonderful story. And every night I was saying all these beautiful, loving, adoring things to Darcy. And I fell madly in love with her, but it was, this platonic adoration that continues to this day. But she's been just my rock in terms of the production side. My old friend Anita Lee, Cooker and Lee publicists, they arranged this moment here, and once again, that's a relationship that goes back to the 1980s in Jersey City when Anita and her then husband and me and my then wife were neighbors, and our children were born about the same time, and we took turns babysitting. My cast, oh my gosh, Claire Wagner, who had been a student of mine at the Art of Acting Conservatory, so mature and so clever for for an actor still at the early parts of her journey, but she's so, I don't even know how to explain it. She's like this prodigy. She's able to come up with ideas that someone of her years shouldn't be having. She's even though she's in her 20s, she's 150 years old. It's just a wonderful player to work with. And then Jean-Michel Richaud, who came to me through my association with wonderful voiceover director and theater director too, Sergine Dumais from Montreal. Jean-Michel he's an actor manager in his own right. He tours Leonard Nimoy's play all over the country, and we were doing a workshop together with Claire, and he had just enough time in his schedule open to do this play. So here we go, and then so many of my former students have stepped up and said, no, can we help with this? Can we help with that? I have several of them, Ahash Francis and Anya and Lola Darzans from Paris they just want to see how can we help out. They've been consulting and helping out with script, with holding the script, prompting, helping me move furniture. It's a team that came together in the most natural of ways. It's a team of people who all see the world in a similar way, and who all, lucky me, trust the way that I see this story, and want to help me to bring that to fruition, and at the same time bring their wonderful and unique visions to the story as well. And all of that has just served to make the whole so much greater than the sum of the parts.
So the playwright, David Mamet, is a very interesting character. And this play is very much an interesting deviation from what Mamet usually writes. He writes a lot of male characters, a lot of masculine heavy shows, and I think that his content is very, very dark, very serious matters. I think that his characters tend to be really fast paced when they talk, and their ideas they're very, very intelligent. And I think that he can have some misogynist leaning views sometimes in his work, and that comes through in a lot of his plays. And to be honest, when I first read this play, it came through as very anti-woman, anti-feminist. But working with Miguel and his vision for this show has totally made me reread the play in a new light, and has made me recognize that there is a lot of actually feminist talking points that he's making and coming out in support of the woman, whether that was intentional or not, who's to say. But I think that Mamet does such a beautiful job of making all of his characters very well spoken and very intelligent, that I guess just a causeway of that is this character comes off like she knows what she's talking about, because she does, and she makes some really strong moral points, and she has really strong footing on her moral ground, which as an actor is such a gift to play with, and makes me really excited to get to work on this text specifically, and maybe give people a new interpretation that they hadn't thought of when they think of David Mamet or when they think of Oleanna.
With this particular, well, with all of David Mamet's work, his work is language driven. He has a way of capturing the nature of talk. And the initial challenge with Mamet is learning the rhythm, learning how to trust him. And once you do, once you trust, once you buy into his rhythms, you find that everything comes after that: character, behavior. But ultimately, Mamet, and I think this is a fair comparison. Mamet, like Shakespeare, like Pinter, like Beckett, well, to a lesser degree, but like, and for that matter, Lillian Hellman, these are all playwrights who instill the story with tremendous and incisive language. What's interesting, though, about language is that while the words remain the same, while the structures and the syntax remains the same, we, in our use of language as a society, as a people, as a species, we change, and the words that we use change. so that when we go back to a piece like Oleanna, or a piece like The Little Foxes, or a piece like The Birthday Party by Pinter, if we cleave to the language, what happens is that the play unfolds, but the way we perceive it changes because of the way that we use language changes. And that's why we have to be really careful when we start to judge our playwrights and our novelists by the language they use. I mean, can we really go back and clean up Roald Dahl in order to fit our sensibilities for today, or should we just leave his work as it is and let it provoke us in a new way? The same thing with Mark Twain. Do we clean up? Do we take the N word out of Mark Twain's work so that we're not offended? No. I think that the fact that it's even more offensive now is important and informs the way we see the work. Mamet uses some very strong language throughout his canon, and very offensive language throughout his canon. Same thing with Eugene O'Neill. Do we clean that up? Do we get it so that we don't feel, that it doesn't make us feel bad? No, we want to feel bad. It was that language was put there for a purpose. I once had the great pleasure of working with Harold Pinter, and I was there at rehearsal when one of the other actors, the great character actor Richard Really, began to say the F word, and he was using a British accent. It was a kind of a Northern English accent, so it has a different sort of a thing to it. And in the F word, of course, has this sound to it. And Richard Really, he being true to his accent, he put kind of an So can I say the F word in this in this podcast? No. So it's so he was saying ugh, and Pinter stopped him and said, no, Richard, that word is the ugliest word in English. It has to be pronounced in an ugly way with the sound, the and that opened such a door to me, because I thought, my God, he chose that word not only for what the word means, but for how the word sounds, how the word lands on human ears and in human minds. So, yes, that's the brilliance of a great playwright, because a word is not just a symbol for an idea. The word, it's a holistic expression of that idea. And if you try to soften the word, you soften the idea, and that's, what is that but censorship?
I'd like the audience to come out excited. I'd like them to come out arguing. I'd love to have some fun, hearted conversations on the way home, in the car, and the play will stay with them. And whether or not because they'll pick a side. It's a play where you have to pick a side somehow, even though you can agree on both sides, but you tend to lean one way. So that always creates dialogue and conversation. And we live in such a polarized world that it feels like we are lacking communication. In many ways, politically, at least, culturally, for sure. And so if we can start conversation at any level, that's always a good thing. And if we get entertained in the process, yay.
I hope that our audience walks away with a greater understanding of how one event can be interpreted in completely different ways based on the spectator's race or class or sex or age. All of these pre-existing factors and conditions influence the way that we perceive an event, either one that we were directly involved in or something that we witnessed. So my experience from witnessing an event is going to be different from yours, is going to be different from the person sitting next to me. And I think our goal in this play is to have people walking away, not necessarily saying that my character and my co-star's character, not necessarily saying that they're both wrong, but actually both of them are right, and they both make a really strong argument. And if the audience leans more one way or another, is that their past experience speaking, and are they able to see the other person's side?
I thought a lot about about what I want to leave the audience with when they're finished seeing the way we tell this story and hearing the way they tell this story. And my hope is that when that final shocking moment is complete, my hope is that the audience will be left feeling upset and feeling an emotional and societal void that they need to help to fill. My hope is that they'll leave feeling disturbed and anxious to do something about the way we conduct ourselves in our society.
I think what I'm looking for every time I'm on stage is try to stay true to the author, to stay true to the story, and stay true to myself with the person on stage. It's always a different journey, but yeah, I'm trying to stay true to the given circumstances of the play. And Mr. Mamet not come on stage and say, "What? What have you done to my show?" No. Yeah, I'm always trying to find the truth of it, the truth seeker.
When we are performing this live, I am hoping for some sort of visceral reaction from the audience. I hope that we are able to get somebody to stand to their feet in defense of one character or the other character. I've read reviews in the past of that happening during this play in earlier productions back in the 90s when it was first being produced. And as soon as I read that, I was like, wow, that's what this show means to me. This show feels so visceral for me that I hope that we can evoke that kind of reaction from somebody, because I do think that although this was a play that was written, a couple decades ago, it still has such a pressing story that you could be literally moved to your feet by how passionate you are about the subject matter.
To tell you the truth, when I direct, I generally don't watch performances past opening night. But on opening night, what I do look for is I look for an opportunity to sit back and see the play as an audience member rather than as the director who's tried to engineer this thing. I just look for how it unfolds as it is. You know, every performance is a unique thing, and I look to be surprised by the things that we never planned. They happen in every performance, and sometimes they're magical, wonderful things. Other times they're things that, oh, geez, they really coped with that well. But now, once I'm done, I'm done with my part of the job, I'm just looking to be delighted by what the the players bring to the moment, and those moments, that's exciting.
They must. They must come to see the show because it's it it's a show that will make them think, will make them laugh, will make them uh, interested in in it, starting a conversation about the many things that we approach on stage, and yeah, if they hopefully they will be very entertained. It's a fun play to watch and definitely a fun play to perform. So they must come to see the show. It's gonna be a life changing experience. Now it's gonna be a good show.
I do think that this is a must see play. This work looks at the the movement behind Me Too. It looks at the wave of feminism that we're experiencing right now. It looks at women's rights. It looks at gender equality. I think it looks at race as well. It is so pertinent to what is happening all over the world, but especially in the United States right now. Of I think that we're seeing a movement of definitely when we're looking at a case of an accusation, an accusation of sexual misconduct, which is what this play deals with. We are definitely moving into a moment where people are taking the side of the victim. And there's also backlash from another side of what if the victim is lying? What if they're making this up? And I think that this play takes both of those sides and looks at them head on in a way that is crazy to me that 3 decades after this play was written, we're having the same exact conversation. I am astounded that it is still incredibly timely and incredibly relevant. And I think if you want to look into one side or the other's head over, well, how could they possibly be victim blaming? Or how could they possibly think that this person isn't making this up? I think that our play does a great job at looking into the heads of both sides of that and saying, what if both sides are right?
People should go to this play at the Hollywood Fringe Festival because there it's a chance to experience it's a chance to experience David Mamet. It's a chance to experience two first class players doing first class work. And it's a chance to sit down and be challenged rather than just entertained.
They should come to see. People should come to the Fringe to, well, first of all, to be part of the community. We're going back to the community. Sorry, to this community concept after the pandemic. Support artists, but to be entertained, to be get out of the house and have a really good time, whether it is to see our very serious show in intellectual or whatever it is, but or see a stand up or a comedy, there's some really good shows out there. You know, the office hours, evenings, we exchange our ideas and each other's shows, and there are really good shows out there. So yeah, please come out, see some good theater.
Hollywood Fringe Festival is amazing. I would recommend making a couple days or a couple weekends out of it because, first of all, the way that it's organized, you can stand to see, I think, maybe 3 or 4 shows in one day, which I cannot think of another theatrical hotspot or location where you can do that. Like, you can't go to Broadway and see 3 or 4 shows in one day. It is an amazing experience. You get to meet and network with local artists, and the variety of fringe shows is insane. I mean, you could go see our play in the afternoon, Oleanna, a very timely drama um, about gender and the accusations around sexual misconduct. And then you could go see uh, as one of the shows that I've been talking to, Feel Your Feet, which is a musical improv show. And then in the night, you could go see this other show, Bugs. It's a sketch comedy all based around bugs, and they have somebody playing David Attenborough to host. And then you could go see another show, it's an Edgar Allan Poe based show, and it's a little bit of dark humor, a little bit of drama, a little bit of comedy. That is such an amazing array of different shows all in the same day that I think is a great way to balance out. Maybe you see something heavier a little bit earlier in the day, and so you need something lighter to tone it down. And what a great way to network with a bunch of working Los Angeles artists.
I'll tell you, the Hollywood Fringe Festival is a must see for anyone who lives here for anyone, period. Because it's this smorgasbord of theater experience. There's plays that will make you laugh. There's little performance pieces that will make you cry. There's such a depth of talent in writing, playing, directing, designing, and I mean it's an opportunity to just dive into the deep end of creative theater endeavor and swim to your heart's content. I love it because every time I've gone to the Fringe, I've seen something that I never expected to see. I was introduced to some ideas and some comic ideas that I never had encountered before, and I never have come away anything but delighted and enthused, and it always gets my theatrical juices flowing, and I start to get creative again just from the experience of witnessing and diving into all of that wonderful creativity. So go see the Fringe Festival. Just go. Just show up.
For me, my experience with Hollywood Fringe Festival has been integral to, as I've said before, meeting and working with other artists that are local to Los Angeles. I think that it keeps our theater scene alive, and it keeps the actual physical theater venues alive, which are so important. There are so many amazing theater venues that are playing host for the Fringe Festival. So it's exposing a lot of people to different theater locations around Los Angeles. And again, it's just a great networking opportunity. I can't think of another way that artists could meet different directors or different actors. And I already know going forward that I'm going to see all these people's shows, and then I'm going to want to connect with them after and see what projects we can work on together after this festival. And without the support of people coming to see our Hollywood Fringe festivals, I mean, who knows, we could draw in more creatives and make the festival even bigger next year because of the audiences that we're drawing in this year. That is so important to me as an artist. I think that, like I said, the community that I found when I entered the theater, I'm feeling it revitalized here at Hollywood Fringe. And for me, that is what theater is. Theater is community, and seeing that sense of community at Fringe is what needs to be supported and uplifted by viewers and by members of our local community here in Los Angeles.
The importance of a thing like the Fringe Festival is beyond just art. Events like the Fringe Festival, events like the Edinburgh Festival, the Venice Biennial, all of these gatherings of artists of all media. It's not just a gathering of artists. It's a gathering of people. Because the Fringe Festival in and of itself, if nobody went to it, then it's pointless. If nobody went to see the Beverly Hills Art Fair, it would be pointless, because art is an unfinished sentence if no one is there to view it, to hear it, to take it in, to be challenged, delighted, amused by it. We have to complete that circle as human beings. It's what we must do in order for any of this to have any meaning. Conversely, if we don't have art to see, if we don't have music to hear or stories to listen to, then we're incomplete as well. Our society is incomplete. It's part of us. Humans are narrative animals. I think, as we saw in the pandemic, when we were cut off from each other, cut off from art, cut off from social gatherings, we began to wither as a species. People were literally losing their minds because of the isolation. Now, the Fringe Festival, the Jazz Fest in New Orleans, all of these amazing gatherings are about completing the circle of humanity, and about being fully human, and not a dangling participle. I think the pandemic proves that idea. Throughout history, artists, in order to make art, they needed somebody to feed the muse. Whether it was Shakespeare and his patrons, or Picasso, Michelangelo, you name it. There's this artists need someone or some group to pay the bills so that the art can get made. And it's no different. It's no different for me or for any of the creative team that we formed. One of the first things that we did was set up a GoFundMe campaign. And basically the theme of the GoFundMe campaign is help us to tell an important story. And basically, we just sent out the word to all of our colleagues, all of our friends, everyone, that we're trying to do something important, and that any amount of help is accepted with deep gratitude. The GoFundMe campaign is still up, and if anyone would like to be a theater angel, all you have to do is send $1, send $5. anything is accepted, and anything is something that we're grateful for, even if what some of the folks who donated to us weren't able to donate money, but what they did donate was taking some time to tell their friends about the play and to encourage them to donate. Even that time, even that desire is a donation of tremendous value to us. And as I've said to many of the folks who have underwritten our efforts, a dollar donated to the arts is a vote for a better world. And we're pure in our intentions. We're trying to do something worthwhile. And I think that the folks who've donated, and that all of you, you know who you are, I'm so grateful, because they've really come through for us in a big way. And we're waiting for you with open arms if you would like to come and join that group of facilitators. I like that better than donors, facilitators, because there's going to be other projects down the line. This creative team is more than just lightning in a bottle. I think we have more stories to tell down the line.
Hi, I'm Jean-Michel Richaud. I'm playing John in the play Oleanna at the Fringe Festival. We are playing at the Zephyr Theatre on Melrose. It's a show written by David Mamet, and it's a wonderful, wonderful, I wouldn't say important, but it is a very life-changing experience. It creates dialogue, creates drama, entertainment. I couldn't recommend this show more. It's an important work to go see with a wonderful team. See you at the theater.
Hey, my name is Claire Wagner, and I'm playing Carol in Oleanna by David Mamet at the Hollywood Fringe Festival. Come see us at the Zephyr Theatre on Melrose Avenue. It is a wonderful and timely play that looks at gender, race, class, sex, all of the things that are timely and all of the things that we're talking about today here in the United States. It is a beautifully written play. It is amazing to get to work with this director and my fellow actor on this play, and we would love if you come out and support us, because it is such an important story that needs to be told today, and you will be having a conversation as you walk out the theater with your other audience members. So come see us and let's start this conversation.
My name is Miguel Perez. I'm lucky enough to have a team around me that all believes that that the story of Oleanna by David Mamet is a story you need to hear. And I would encourage you to come down to the Hollywood Fringe Festival. We open June 3rd and run throughout the month of June, and sit down and listen to us tell this story for you. You will not be disappointed. You may end up feeling kind of angry, but you won't forget the evening you spent with us. I promise you that. We won't waste your time.